Hello, we're team number 3. My name is Nicolás Morales,
David Maldonado,
Max Pacheco.
and Daniel Salinas.
and we are going to present our project in applied computing that is called Automated Drone Inspection for Agriculture. The agricultural industry is in the middle of a digital revolution to keep up with the global food demands and the ongoing labor crisis in the rural zones. Conventional farming is no longer enough to ensure productivity. So here, the precision agriculture is stepping in as a key solution that using data and technology to optimize resources like water and fertilizers.
So one of the examples of precision agriculture, which we will focus on in this project, is the use of UAVs for crop monitoring, which are equipped with advanced features such as multispectral cameras, RTK positioning for precise localization, and other advanced data tools. These vehicles equipped with these sensors are able to provide the farmers insights about the health of the crop and other important parameters.
While the NDVI is the standard tool for checking if plants are healthy, it often gives wrong ratings because it gets confused with the soil and weeds. So our project addresses this by segmenting the trees canopies, and also we are facing the challenge that we have to find the optimal height to fly, because if we fly too low, we sacrifice battery, and if we fly too high, we sacrifice resolution in the images.
So our contribution in this project is to propose a methodology consisting of several applied computing tools, in which we are able to design a pipeline which can ensure a methodology to study these crops and provide insights which can be repeated over a long period of time.
As an input to our pipeline, we performed several flights with a DI Mavic 3 drone, in which we captured both RGB, NDRE, and NDVI videos and images, along with conventional EMU and GPS flight data, like latitude, longitude, and altitude, in order to produce a data set of several gigabytes of size, from which we reduced and extracted the key videos and images of several specimens of trees in our local park, which is Central Park alongside the Wellness Center. And we used this data as an input to our applied computing modules.
For the data segmentation, one of the problems when calculating the NDVI is that there can be a lot of noise from the shadow of the leaves, the floor, the grass, or objects around. That's why we did the segmentation. For this, we mainly use a model called depth anything, which gives us the opportunity from a normal image, infer the height of the objects with respect to the highest one. Here we can use it to, as it is shown on the image, we can detect the trees while eliminating all of the other objects. However, there can be some problems with this, such as it happened here, where tall objects such as the street lamp that were in the park also appear on our mask. And since we didn't want that to show us any error, we added a simple color filter to only check for the green pixels.
For the machine learning part, we wanted to estimate or simulate multispectral images out of RGB images. In the case that we went to flight and we didn't take multispectral photos, we can estimate this type of photos out of RGB images. So we applied random forest and like GBM, and also masked random forest with more neighbors that the usual, that it's one neighbor. We use two neighbors to each side, and we've obtained a determination index of 0.66 that is lower than the original, but we got if we check the next graphs, We got higher rooftop of our data where we can predict more brighter pixels, as we can see in the third graph. It follows the trend, and it also goes up with the brighter pixels.
Now that we know which model works best, we decided to train another one because for the NDVI we require the near image and the red image. So we train a new one with the parameters that we knew work best for the 5-patch model, and we generated this image that it closely resembles the original one. Now we can infer the NDVI based only on generated images.
With this near infrared and red band images, we merged them, and from this we obtained the heat map for the NDVI. And the left we have the real NDVI out of real multispectral images, and in the right we have the synthetic NDVI that it gets or it is very similar. Our average values of NDVI is in the left 0.43 and in the right 0.39, and also we got also very similar values for the maximum.
Once we had these segmented images with the NDVI data, we wanted to find a metric which allowed us to find or encounter or compute an optimal height to give to a drone in order to perform the flights. So we focused on the variance of the pixels in the NDVI images, already segmented images, to produce the graph on the upper right corner, to which we then perform several regression fits of various degrees. We went from a linear fit all the way to a polynomial fit of degree 4, in order to find an approximated function of the relation of the variance of the pixels in respect to the relative altitude of the drone. This function allows us to find, given by several criteria, which is the optimal height of the flight, which focus on minimizing the variance in order to produce an altitude, or to find an altitude which didn't consume much flight time or to scan a specific orchard, but also allowed us to preserve some range of information in order to input it to the next steps of the pipeline. We also produced several diagnostic plots, from which we can see the most important one, which is the almost elasticity plot of the degree 4 fit, which we deemed was the best in terms of metrics, which shows that we have a relative good variance of our residuals.
Now, for the optimization module, we first perform a 3D Gaussian splatting from the data log frames from one of our navigation explorations. And this Gaussian splatting algorithm is a gradient descent-based optimization method, which generates a point cloud from an algorithm called CallMap, which obtains the pose at which each of these frames generated the pictures. And this algorithm works by optimizing millions of splats, which are 3D Gaussian units containing opacity, color, position, and shape. Now, additionally, from these Gaussian splat, we handle it in Blender to obtain the treetops of each of the trees that we are interested in monitoring. Subsequently, we found the order in which the inspection should be performed by solving the traveling salesman problem, which generated, of course, the order, and then we have the position of the treetops and the height, the optimal height gathered from the regression module. This way, we can perform a non-linear programming sequentially least squares optimization, in which we set the optimal height as a constraint and also a horizontal radius from each of the trees in order to always get the optimal height. So each of the frames cannot take a picture which is not above the optimal height. And this way we can minimize the trajectory for each of the segments of the trees and we can find the optimal takeoff and landing positions as a decision variable.
Finally, in order to ensure the reproducibility of our results and the further usage of our pipeline, we integrated several key files and configuration steps, which include the generation of a makefile, requirements txt, and other mechanisms in order to automate to generate an automation of the dependency installation process and also of the virtual environment managed of our pipeline. We have all of our code uploaded to GitHub, which also includes the history of development, including issues, pull requests, and other versioning control insights. Finally, for having the output of all modules, we also generated mechanisms in order to generate a LaTeX report, which includes all the figures and information about our complete pipeline execution, as we can see on the right. And this is the final output as a report or main report, which includes the data from all modules.
For the conclusions, for the segmentation part, we could see that it correctly isolates the canopy of pixels from the trees, from the rest of the noise that could be the floor, the grass, and or other objects. This let us just inspect the canopy or individual trees.
Also, using the regression approach in order to find the optimal data as an input to our optimization module gives us a data-driven approach in order to perform automated flight path generation given several criteria, which in our case was minimum variance, but this can be easily extended in our architecture to include other criteria, which gives us a great flexibility great flexibility with respect to the generated paths that our pipeline produces.
Additionally, the perks of having an optimized trajectory for the navigation of the drone can benefit us a lot. Like, for example, having reducing an unnecessary battery consumption, which we can tune to our navigations and scalable solutions.
This modular architecture allows future extensions to larger regions where an optimal methodology is very important. Thank you so much for your attention. And that's it.